Admiral Jake Morrison stood in the command center of Luna Station watching the alien message play on the big screen for the fifth time today. The strange crystal creature called High Counselor Vex Thara looked down at him with its many eyes glowing. With what humans had learned meant it thought it was better than everyone else. Primitive species of the third planet. The alien's voice filled the room through the speakers. You have broken 17 galactic preservation laws by expanding beyond your solar system. The Galactic Council orders you to withdraw to Earth immediately and give up all your colonies. You have 72 hours to obey. Captain Lisa Hayes leaned against the wall with her arms crossed and shook her head. Sir, they're talking to us like we're bugs they want to step on. That's exactly what they think we are, Morrison replied with a small smile growing on his weathered face. The question is, do we tell them what we've really been doing out here? Or do we let them find out when it's too late? Dr. Alex Carter walked over to them carrying a tablet showing the latest reports from their spy ships. Admiral, our scouts confirmed it. The Zephyrian Empire is moving their war fleets toward the Outer Rim systems. This whole peacekeeping order from the Council is just a cover so they can take over everything we've built. Morrison nodded slowly. For months, human intelligence officers had been watching strange movements among the big alien powers. The Galactic Council was supposed to be neutral and keep peace in the galaxy, but they had been secretly working with the Zephyrians to get rid of the human problem before humans became too strong to stop. They made one big mistake, Morrison said, his voice getting harder. They thought we would actually do what they told us to do. The Admiral turned to look out the massive windows of the command center. Outside, Earth's moon hung in the black space like a gray pearl, and beyond it, the blue marble of humanity's homeworld slowly turned, but that wasn't all he could see. Hidden in the shadows of Luna's craters were the shipyards that had been working day and night for years. The aliens had no idea what humans had been building in secret. Sir, Hayes said quietly, the message has been sent to every human colony, every ship, every settlement in space. They all heard the Council's demands. And what are they saying back? Morrison asked, though he already knew the answer. Hayes pulled up her own tablet and showed him the flood of messages coming in from across human space, from the mining stations, around distant stars to the farming worlds in the habitable zones. From the research outposts to the military bases, the response was the same everywhere. Colony Alpha 7 says they're not going anywhere. The Centauri Industrial Complex is increasing production. The Deep Space Fleet is requesting permission to advance toward Council space. The Kepler agricultural worlds are asking if we need more food supplies for a long war. Morrison felt pride swell in his chest. This was what made humans different from every other species in the galaxy. When threatened, they didn't cower or surrender. They got angry and they fought back. What? About Earth? He asked. The President is calling an emergency session of the Defense Council. Every nation is sending representatives. The Chinese are mobilizing their Space Force. The Europeans are activating their orbital defense platforms. The Americans are bringing their deep space battleships back from patrol. Even the smaller countries are offering whatever they can. Dr. Carter looked up from his tablet where he had been reading more intelligence reports. Admiral, there's something else. Our deep space monitoring stations have detected massive energy signatures moving toward the galactic core. The Council isn't just making threats, they're preparing for a real war. How long do we have? Morrison asked. Based on their fleet movements, maybe 2 weeks before they reach the outer human colonies. Morrison walked over to the main display and stared at the tactical map showing human space. 47 colonies spread across 23 star systems. 60 million people who had left Earth to build new lives among the stars. Shipyards and factories and research stations that represented 50 years of human expansion into the galaxy. The aliens wanted all of it gone. They wanted humanity to crawl back to Earth and never leave again. You know what the funny thing is? Morrison said to his officers. They actually believe we're going to give up everything we've worked for just because they told us to. Hayes smiled for the first time since the message arrived. What are your orders, sir? Morrison turned back to face them, and his expression was calm but determined. Send a message to every human ship, every colony, every outpost. Tell them the Galactic Council has ordered us to surrender our freedom, our homes, our future. And then, Carter asked, then tell them we said no. The command center fell quiet except for the soft hum of computers and life support systems. Through the windows, Earth continued its slow rotation, peaceful and beautiful. But Morrison knew that peace was about to end. The galaxy had made its choice, and now humanity would make theirs. Sir, Hayes said softly, they outnumber us 1,000 to 1. Their technology is supposed to be far ahead of ours. Every military analysis says we can't win. Morrison's smile grew wider. That's what makes this so interesting. They have no idea what we've been doing while they've been sitting around feeling superior to everyone else. He walked over to a secure terminal and entered his command codes. Deep in the Luna Station's computer core, files marked with the highest security. Classifications began to unlock. Project Prometheus was about to begin. The emergency meeting of the Earth Defense Council was the biggest gathering in human history. President Sam Mitchell sat at the head of the long table surrounded by military leaders, scientists, and government officials from every major nation. On Earth, the Galactic Council's ultimatum had been broadcast to every corner of human space. And now everyone wanted to know what they were going to do about it. General Kate Bishop, who commanded all the colonial defense forces, spoke first. Mr. President, they want us to abandon 47 colonies, including our main industrial centers in the Centauri system. That's 60 million people. They expect us to just pack up and move back to Earth. Don't forget our shipyards, added Admiral Ben Torres, who ran the Deep Space Fleet. They want us to tear down everything we've built over the last 50 years. Every space station, every mining operation, every research facility. President Mitchell rubbed his forehead where a headache was starting to form. What do our military experts say about our chances? Honestly, sir, if we look at the numbers on paper, we're completely outmatched, Bishop replied. The Galactic Council has over 200 different alien species working for them. Their combined fleets have more ships than we can count. Their technology is supposed to be thousands of years ahead of ours. That's if we look at it on paper, said Dr. Rachel Green, the director of the Advanced Research Division. She had been quiet during most of the meeting, but now she leaned forward, with a look that made everyone pay attention. But they don't know about Project Prometheus. The room went completely silent. Project Prometheus was humanity's biggest secret, something that had been in development for over 20 years. While the rest of the galaxy had been happy to keep, using the same old technology that the Council approved, humanity had been quietly pushing the boundaries of what was possible. The Council's ultimatum was sent on every frequency we use, Mitchell said slowly. Every human colony, every ship, every settlement heard what they demanded of us. Yes, sir, Bishop confirmed. And the response from our people has been incredible. Mitchell touched his tablet and brought up a compilation of messages that had been flooding in from across human space. Colony after colony, fleet after fleet, the message was the same. From the mining stations of Kepler 442b to the farming worlds. In the habitable zones, humanity's answer was clear and united. Listen to this, Mitchell said, reading from the tablet. New Geneva Colony says they're not abandoning their homes. The Titan Research Station is asking for more supplies to continue their work. The asteroid mining operations in the belt are increasing production. The agricultural worlds are preparing to feed our entire civilization through a long war. Admiral, Torres pulled up his own reports. Sir, I've got captains requesting permission to take their ships deeper into Council space. The crews are volunteering for extended duty. Some of our reserve units are asking to be activated immediately. What about the civilian population? Asked Dr. Green. That's the amazing part, Bishop replied. We expected panic, maybe demands that we negotiate with the Council. Instead, we're getting millions of volunteers. Engineers wanting to help build ships, scientists offering to work on weapons research. Even children are writing letters saying they want to help fight. Mitchell stood up and walked to the big window that looked out over the city. Below him, he could see people going about their daily lives, but he knew that everything was about to change. The peace that humanity had enjoyed for the last 50 years was over. You know what the strangest thing is? He said to the room. When I first heard their message, when that alien told us we were primitive and had to give up everything we'd worked for, my first reaction wasn't fear or anger. What was it, sir? Torres asked. I laughed, Mitchell said, turning back to face them. I actually laughed out loud. Here's this creature that looks like a walking crystal telling the human race that we need to know our place, and all I could think was how wrong they were about us. Dr. Green smiled. They have no idea what we've been developing while they've been sitting around feeling superior. Our quantum drives can move ships faster than anything in their databases. Our weapon systems use principles they've never even theorized about. Our defensive technology is based on physics they don't understand. How long before we're ready? Mitchell asked. The new ships are already rolling off the production lines, Bishop replied. We've got 50 advanced warships ready for combat, with more being completed every day. Our existing fleet is being upgraded with the new systems. Give us 2 weeks and we'll have a military force that will shock the galaxy. And our intelligence network? Mitchell asked. Our deep space reconnaissance ships have been watching Council fleet movements for months, Torres said. We know where they're going, how fast they're moving, what weapons they're carrying. They think they're being secretive, but we've been tracking their every move. Mitchell sat back down and looked around the table at the faces of humanity's leaders. These were the people who would decide the fate of their species, and he could see the determination in their eyes. Gentlemen, ladies, he said formally, the Galactic Council has ordered the human race to surrender our freedom, our homes, our future among the stars. They expect us to crawl back to Earth and never leave again. They think we're too primitive and weak to resist their demands. The room was completely quiet, waiting for his decision. The Council's message has been heard by every human in the galaxy, Mitchell continued. And humanity's response has been unanimous. We are not surrendering. We are not retreating. We are not giving up everything we've built. He stood up again, and his voice grew stronger. They ordered us to surrender, and we laughed. Now let's show them why. Commander Ryan Phillips stood on the bridge of the battleship Enterprise, watching the massive construction yards around Jupiter work faster than they ever had before. In the 3 weeks since the Council's ultimatum, humanity had mobilized every resource they could find. The giant orbital factories that had been building civilian ships were now producing warships at an incredible rate. Engineering report. Phillips called out to his crew. Lieutenant Amy Foster turned from her control station with a big smile on her face. Sir, the new quantum drives are working at 300% of what we expected. We can reach the edge of Council space in half the time they think it will take us. What about the weapon systems? Phillips asked. All installed and ready, reported Chief Engineer Danny Wells. The plasma cannons are connected directly to the ship's fusion reactor. We're looking at firepower that's way beyond anything the Council has in their computer files. Phillips nodded with satisfaction. The Enterprise was just one of 50 new ships coming out of Earth's shipyards, and each one had technology that the galaxy had never seen before. While the Council had been happy to keep using the same old weapons and engines for thousands of years, humanity had spent the last century pushing the limits of what science could do on Mars. Dr. Linda Scott was putting the final touches on humanity's most ambitious project yet. The Titan-class Dreadnought construction facility had been working around the clock, building ships that didn't exist in any galactic database. The facility was hidden inside a hollowed-out asteroid, invisible to the Council's long-range sensors. The Council's information about us is 50 years out of date, Scott explained to her team of engineers. They think we're still using chemical rockets and nuclear bombs. They have no idea what we've actually developed. The truth was that humanity had been preparing for this moment since they first met aliens. The Galactic Council's attitude had made it clear from the beginning that they saw humans as inferior creatures, who should be grateful for any scraps of technology they were allowed to have. Every treaty that was signed, every piece of technology that was shared, every diplomatic meeting had been part of a bigger plan to gather intelligence about the galaxy's real powers. "Ma'am," called out one of the technicians, "we're getting coded messages from our deep space spy ships. The Zephyrian fleet is moving into attack position." Scott walked over to the main display screen and pulled up the tactical information. Red dots representing enemy ships were moving through space toward human colonies. Each dot represented a massive warship carrying enough firepower to destroy an entire city. "How many ships are we looking at?" she asked. "Initial count shows over 300 vessels in the first wave," the technician replied. "More are following behind them." Scott felt her heart race, but she kept her voice calm. "And our response?" "Admiral Morrison has authorized Phase 1 of Project Prometheus. All new ships are being deployed to intercept positions." Phillips received the same information on his ship's communication system. The Enterprise was part of a small fleet of 12 ships that would face the first alien attack. On paper, they were outnumbered 25 to 1. In reality, the aliens were about to discover that numbers didn't always matter. "Sir," Amy Foster said from her station, "we're receiving a priority message from Fleet Command. Admiral Morrison wants to speak with all ship captains." The main screen flickered and Admiral Morrison's face appeared. Behind him, Phillips could see the busy command center of Luna Station. "Captains," Morrison began, "in 6 hours the Zephyrian Advance Fleet will reach the Kepler system. They expect to find human colonists ready to surrender and pack up their belongings. Instead, they're going to find us." Phillips felt a grin spreading across his face. The Kepler system was home to over 2 million humans living on farming worlds and research stations. The aliens probably thought it would be an easy target. "Your orders are simple," Morrison continued. "Show them what humanity has been working on. Show them that we're not the primitive species they think we are. Show them that when someone threatens our people, we don't run away." The transmission ended and Phillips turned to his crew. These were men and women who had trained for years on the new technology, who had volunteered to be the first to test humanity's secret weapons in real combat. "You heard the Admiral," Phillips said. "The aliens think they're dealing with cavemen using stone tools. Let's teach them about human engineering." The Enterprise and its sister ships began moving toward the Kepler system. Their quantum drives bent space around them, allowing them to travel faster than light in ways that Council science said was impossible. Their hulls were made from materials that didn't exist in any alien database. Their weapons were based on principles that the galaxy's greatest scientists had never discovered. "Sir," Danny Wells called out from the engineering station, "all systems are running perfectly. We're ready for anything they can throw at us." Phillips looked out at the stars streaming past as they traveled through quantum space. Somewhere out there, an alien fleet was approaching human space, expecting an easy victory. They thought they were hunting sheep. They were about to discover they had found wolves instead. "Time to contact?" Phillips asked. 4 hours and 37 minutes until we reach the intercept point, Foster replied. "Good," Phillips said. "That gives us time to prepare a proper welcome for our guests." In the depths of space, humanity's secret weapons were about to be revealed. The galaxy would never be the same. The first battle happened at the edge of the Kepler system, where a human mining operation had been peacefully working for 15 years. The Zephyrian task force consisted of 12 heavy cruisers and one massive command dreadnought approaching. With the confidence of a species that had conquered half the galaxy, Commander Tony Baker, captain of the destroyer Intrepid, received the enemy's surrender demand with barely hidden amusement. His ship was alone against 13 alien warships, each one bigger and supposedly more powerful than his vessel. "This is Captain Baker of the Earth ship Intrepid," he said into the communication system. "Your demand for surrender is noted and rejected. Please leave human space immediately." The alien response came from Sub-Commander Krikstal on the Zephyrian flagship. "Human vessel, you are outnumbered 13 to 1. Your primitive technology cannot stand against the might of the Zephyrian Empire. Surrender now and your death will be quick." Baker looked around his bridge at his crew. These men and women had trained for years on technology that the aliens had never seen. They had volunteered to be the first to test humanity's secret weapons in real combat. "Well, you heard them," Baker said to his crew. "They think we're primitive. Let's show them what human engineering can do." The Zephyrian attack came without warning. Energy beams that could melt asteroids lanced out toward the small human ship. The alien commander fully expected to watch the destruction of another primitive vessel that had foolishly challenged the Empire. Instead, something impossible happened. The Intrepid's experimental shielding absorbed the massive energy blast completely. The ship's hull glowed briefly with redistributed power, then returned to normal. The destroyer hadn't even been scratched. "Impossible," Crickstall said from his command chair. "Their defensive systems shouldn't be able to handle our weapons. Run a full scan of their ship." The results made no sense. The human vessel was smaller than a Zephyrian escort ship, but the energy readings were off the charts. Whatever technology they were using, it wasn't in any council database. "Sir," Baker's voice came across the communication channel, "that was a pretty good shot. Now let me show you what we've been working on." The Intrepid's response was devastating. A single pulse from its main gun punched through the Zephyrian flagship's shields like they were made of paper. The energy beam continued through the ship's armor, which was supposed to be impossible to penetrate, and struck the main reactor, the massive dreadnought. Pride of the Zephyrian fleet broke apart in a cascade of explosions. Pieces of the ship scattered across space like confetti, and the shock wave knocked two of the smaller cruisers off course. "What just happened?" screamed one of the surviving Zephyrian captains. "How did one small ship destroy our flagship?" Baker's voice came back calm and steady. "That was a warning shot. You have 30 seconds to leave human space before we target your remaining ships." The alien fleet didn't wait 30 seconds. Within minutes, the surviving ships were fleeing toward the galactic core at maximum speed. The message they carried back to the Council was simple. Humanity was not the primitive species they had believed. Similar battles were happening across human space. At the Proxima mining station, Captain Nicole Grant commanded the cruiser Defiant against a Zephyrian patrol fleet. Her ship's quantum drive allowed it to appear and disappear around the battlefield, striking from impossible angles and vanishing. Before the aliens could respond, "Where did they go?" demanded the alien commander as the human ship seemed to phase out of normal space. The answer came from directly behind his formation, where the Defiant emerged from quantum space and delivered precision strikes to 3 enemy ships simultaneously. The aliens had never seen anything like it. At the Centauri Industrial Complex, Major Susan Clark coordinated the defense with a squadron of the new fighter craft. These small ships were faster than anything in the galaxy and carried weapons that could punch through cruiser armor. "They're trying to surround us," reported one of her pilots. "Let them," Clark replied. "They still think in 3 dimensions. Show them what 4-dimensional combat looks like." The human fighters began using their quantum drives to move through folded space, attacking from angles that shouldn't exist. The alien fleet found itself under fire from directions that their sensors couldn't track. Admiral Morrison received battle reports from across the front lines. Every engagement was ending the same way: complete human victory with minimal losses. The galaxy's predators were learning too late that they had gravely underestimated their prey. "Sir," Captain Hayes approached with a datapad, "we're receiving surrender requests from 3 minor council species. Apparently word is spreading about our capabilities." Morrison chuckled. "Funny how quickly attitudes change when you're not the one with the biggest weapons anymore." The reports kept coming in. The Altair system was secure after the enemy fleet withdrew with heavy losses. The Vega front was holding after the Zephyrians requested a ceasefire. The outer colonies were not only safe but were beginning to push back against their attackers. "What about the diplomatic situation?" Morrison asked. "Ambassador Stone reports that half the council member species are withdrawing from the alliance. The other half are asking for defense treaties with us." Morrison looked out at the stars and felt a sense of satisfaction. For too long, humanity had been treated like children who should be grateful for whatever scraps the galaxy chose to give them. Now, the galaxy was learning that humans were not to be underestimated. "Sir," Hayes said quietly, the Council's main fleet is still approaching. This was just their advance force. "I know," Morrison replied. "But they'll be approaching a very different humanity than the one they expected to find." The war that followed was unlike anything in galactic history. For thousands of years, conflicts had been fought with the same weapons and tactics, with outcomes decided by who had more ships and bigger guns. Humanity changed those rules overnight, Captain. Nicole Grant commanded the assault on the Proxima Defense Station, a massive orbital fortress that had protected the approach to Council space for over 1,000 years. The station's energy shields had never been broken, its armor had never been damaged, and its weapons had never failed to destroy attacking fleets. "Remember," Grant told her crew from the bridge of the cruiser Defiant, "we're not here to fight them with their own methods. We're here to make their advantages meaningless." The Defiant's approach was unlike anything the station's defenders had ever witnessed. Instead of the traditional frontal attack that aliens expected, the human ship seemed to blink in and out of existence, its quantum drive allowing it to jump around the battlefield like a ghost. "Where did they go?" demanded Station Commander Velther as the human ship vanished from all sensors. His weapons officers were frantically trying to track a target that kept disappearing and reappearing in impossible locations. The massive guns that had destroyed countless enemy fleets couldn't hit what they couldn't predict. The answer came from directly behind the station, where the Defiant emerged from quantum space and delivered a surgical strike to the fortress's main power core. The entire structure, bigger than most human cities, went completely dark in seconds. "Impossible," Velther whispered as emergency lighting flickered on. "This station has defended Council space for a millennium. How did one small ship disable us so easily?" Similar victories were being reported across the entire front. The Galactic Council's fleets, used to fighting opponents who used similar technology, found themselves completely outmatched by human innovation. General Bishop coordinated the overall campaign from her command center on Luna Station. Battle reports streamed in from dozens of star systems, and every single one showed the same result: total human victory. "Status report from all fronts," she called out to her staff. "The Altair system is completely secure," reported Colonel Jim Parker. "Enemy fleet withdrew after losing 60% of their ships. They're requesting medical aid for their survivors." "Vega front is more than holding," added Major Susan Clark. "The Zephyrians sent their best battle fleet, and we destroyed it in less than 4 hours. They're asking for a formal ceasefire. What about the diplomatic situation?" Bishop asked. Ambassador Peter Stone, humanity's representative to what remained of the Galactic Council, appeared on the communication screen with a broad smile. "General, the political situation is changing faster than we can track. Half the member species have officially withdrawn from the Council. The other half are sending secret messages asking for defense agreements with us." Bishop felt amazement at how quickly everything was changing. Just weeks ago, the galaxy had ordered humanity to surrender and retreat to Earth. Now those same powers were begging for human protection. "The Council's central command is in complete chaos," Stone continued. "High Counselor Vexthara is trying to maintain order, but their member species are abandoning them faster than they can count. Some are even offering to share their technology with us in exchange for military cooperation." General Bishop pulled up the tactical display showing the entire galaxy. Red zones marked areas still controlled by hostile Council forces, but those zones were shrinking by the hour. Blue zones showed human-controlled or allied territory, and they were expanding rapidly. "What about their main battle fleet?" Bishop asked. "Still approaching, but much more slowly than before," Colonel Parker replied. "Intelligence suggests they're having second thoughts about directly confronting us after what happened to their advanced forces." The truth was that humanity's technology had shocked even their own military leaders. The quantum drives that allowed ships to move through folded space had proven more effective than anyone imagined. The plasma weapons that drew Powered directly from fusion reactors were cutting through alien armor like it was made of tissue paper. "Ma'am," called out a communications officer, "we're receiving a priority message from the outer defense perimeter. Captain Phillips on the Enterprise is reporting contact with a Council surrender delegation." Bishop raised her eyebrows. "They want to negotiate?" "Apparently so. They're asking for safe passage to discuss terms." "Terms for what?" "They want to surrender." The command center fell silent. The species that had ruled the galaxy for millennia, that had ordered humanity to crawl back to Earth in defeat, were now asking to give up. "Tell Captain Phillips to escort them to neutral space," Bishop ordered. "We'll hear what they have to say." But even as she gave the order, Bishop knew that the galaxy had already changed forever. The old power structure based on fear and domination was crumbling. In its place, something new was being born. Reports continued flowing in from across human space. The asteroid mining operations were increasing production to supply the war effort. The research stations were developing even more advanced weapons. The agricultural worlds were growing enough food to feed not just humanity but their new alien allies as well. "General," Stone said from the communication screen, "there's something else you should know. We're receiving requests from over 50 different species asking to join what they're calling the Human Alliance. They want protection from the Council's remaining forces." Bishop looked out at the stars through the command center's massive windows. Humanity had been dismissed as primitive creatures who should be grateful for whatever scraps the galaxy chose to give them. Now those same aliens were lining up to ask for human protection. "You know what the strangest part is?" she said to her staff. "We never wanted to conquer anyone. We just wanted to be left alone to build our lives among the stars. And now?" Colonel Parker asked. "Now we're going to have to teach the galaxy how to live in peace." 6 months after the Galactic Council's ultimatum, High Counselor Vexthara stood in what remained of the once mighty council chambers. The crystalline beings who had ruled the galaxy for thousands of years now faced a reality they had never imagined. They were no longer in control of anything. President Mitchell's holographic image filled the chamber as he addressed the handful of council members who hadn't fled or switched sides. His voice was calm but carried the authority of someone who now spoke for the most powerful military force in the galaxy. "The old order is finished," he said simply. "The question now is what kind of galaxy we're going to build to replace it." "You cannot simply take over everything," Vexthara protested weakly. "The galaxy needs structure, needs leadership, needs someone to maintain order between the species." "Which is exactly what we're going to provide," Mitchell replied. "But this time, it's going to be based on cooperation instead of fear, free trade instead of tribute payments, innovation instead of keeping everyone locked into old technology." Admiral Morrison, now promoted to Supreme Commander of Human Space Forces, stood beside the President. Behind him, representatives from over 100 alien species waited to sign new alliance agreements with humanity. "The species that attacked us will face consequences," Morrison said. "The ones that stayed neutral during the fighting will be welcomed as trading partners, and the ones that helped us fight the Council's forces will find that humans make very loyal allies." Dr. Carter, now head of the new Galactic Science Council, was already working with dozens of species to share technologies that had been suppressed for centuries. The quantum drive technology that had given humanity such an advantage in battle was being adapted for peaceful exploration. The energy weapons were being converted into tools for mining and construction. The galaxy was about to experience the fastest period of scientific advancement in its recorded history. "But why are you doing this?" asked one of the few remaining council members. "You won the war. You could take whatever you wanted from any species in the galaxy. Why go through the trouble of building alliances and sharing technology?" Captain Hayes, now promoted to Admiral Hayes, answered for all of humanity. "Because that's not who we are. We didn't fight this war to become the new tyrants ruling over everyone else. We fought it to make sure that no one could ever again tell an entire species that they weren't good enough to reach for the stars." The irony was not lost on anyone in the chamber. The Galactic Council had ordered humanity to surrender, expecting obedience from a species they considered primitive and weak. Instead, they had awakened something that would transform the galaxy in ways they couldn't have imagined. Mitchell pulled up a holographic display showing the new galactic map. Green zones marked the territories of the Human Alliance, which now included over 60 different species. Yellow zones showed neutral areas where peaceful trade was flourishing. Only a few small red zones remained under the control of the old Council's hardcore supporters. In the old system, Mitchell explained, advancement was controlled by the Council. If you wanted new technology, you had to beg for it. If you wanted to expand to new worlds, you had to get permission. If you wanted to trade with other species, you had to pay tribute to the Council first. And in your new system? Vextara asked. Freedom, Admiral Morrison replied. Any species can develop whatever technology they want. Any world can join our alliance if they agree to basic principles of peace and cooperation. Any group can trade with anyone else without asking permission from some distant authority. The results were already becoming visible across the galaxy. Species that had been suppressed under Council rule were developing new innovations at an incredible rate. Worlds that had been forced to send their resources as tribute were now using those same resources to build better lives for their own people. Trade routes that had been monopolized by Council-approved cartels were now open to everyone. The medical advances alone are revolutionary, Dr. Carter added. When you combine human research with Altarian biotechnology and vegan quantum healing, we're looking at treatments that could eliminate most diseases within a generation. Admiral Hayes walked over to the chamber's massive windows that looked out into space. In the distance, construction ships from a dozen different species were working together to build a new space station. That would serve as the headquarters for the Human Alliance. You know what the best part is? She said to the room. We're not trying to control anyone. Each species keeps their own government, their own culture, their own way of life. We're just providing security and a framework for peaceful cooperation. As the last of the Council ships departed the system, carrying news of the new order to the far reaches of space, Admiral Morrison reflected on how much had changed. The galaxy had ordered humanity to surrender, expecting compliance from creatures they saw as barely civilized. They had ordered humans to give up their colonies, their technology, their dreams of exploring the stars. They had expected humanity to crawl back to Earth and never leave again. Instead, humanity had laughed at their demands and shown the galaxy what freedom really meant. Sir, Admiral Hayes said quietly, incoming message from the outer territories. 3 more species are requesting to join the Alliance. Morrison smiled as he looked out at the stars. Welcome them in. There's room for everyone who wants to build something better. The galaxy would never be the same, and that was exactly what humanity had intended.